Sagas of the Fallen, Scourge of the Bogan, an original Star Wars The Old Republic era audiobook by Todd Darren.
Prologue. Before the Jedi, before the Sith, there were the Ashla and Bogan. Since time immemorial, there have been those drawn to the light and those who find comfort in shadow's embrace. Millennia ago, when the galaxy was young and the Force barely understood, the sensitive souls who could touch that cosmic power found themselves called to a single world, Tython. There, beneath alien stars, they gathered to study what could not be fully comprehended, to train for battles they could not yet imagine, and to grow in knowledge of both the vast galaxy and the abilities needed to preserve it. In those ancient days, balance was not just encouraged, it was the foundation of everything they believed. The Jedi, as they called themselves, embraced both aspects of the Force with equal reverence. Ashla, the light that brought peace and healing, and Bogan, the shadow that fed on passion and strength. They achieved what their descendants would spend millennia trying to recapture: true equilibrium between opposing forces, harmony between conflicting emotions. But balance, like all perfect things, carries within it the seeds of its own destruction. The conflict between light and dark awakened slowly, like some ancient leviathan stirring in the depths. What began as philosophical disagreements became bitter arguments. Those who favored one side over the other began to espouse the superiority of their chosen path while demonizing the alternative. The crack in their foundation widened into a chasm. The chasm yawned into open warfare, and the galaxy's first great division tore through those who wielded the Force. The Force Wars had begun. When the smoke cleared and the blood dried, those who embraced the light side claimed victory and codified their beliefs under a name that would echo through history: the Jedi. For centuries afterward, their strict adherence to the light side remained the dominant practice among Force wielders, their temples spreading across the galaxy like stars in the night. But just as night follows day and shadow chases light across the face of worlds, the conflict would rise again. It always did. The First Great Schism. The First Great Schism occurred circa 24,500 BBY, and with it came blood. Zendor, a respected Jedi, was the first to voice what many had been thinking. Embracing the dark side could make a Jedi whole, complete. The chasm widened between Jedi who treated the dark side like a plague and those who believed all emotions, even forbidden ones, were their birthright. Both sides were wrong, but they were wrong in different ways, and the galaxy would pay the price for both kinds of blindness. Zendor and his followers, now referred to as the Fallen, called themselves the Legions of Leto and embraced their passions and the dark side with the fervor of converts. But not all were eager to die for his vision or be drawn into open war with the Jedi High Council. Some among the Legion, sharing Zendor's beliefs but disillusioned by the escalating conflict, quietly planned their withdrawal from both Zendor and the coming war. The Great Exodus. The splinter group that would become our ancestors made their choice quietly. They gathered their ships, families, and allies, and simply left. 37 vessels carrying over 5,000 souls who chose the uncertainty of the unknown over the certainty of destruction. In time, divisions developed within the refugee armada. One faction embraced all emotions and force powers, seeking the balance of ancient times. The other embraced the dark side to obtain ultimate power at any cost. The eternal story of division began anew, far from Republic space. The new names. The first group yearned for the balance of those in the earliest of times, a golden age that existed more in memory than truth. The Ashla. Having embraced emotions and explored the dark side of the Force, they knew they could no longer rightfully call themselves Jedi, nor did they want to. The Jedi would have called them heretics. The Jedi would have been right. They accepted the new designation, finding it honest in a way that Jedi no longer was, a name that acknowledged both their ancient heritage and their chosen path. The second group chose to return to the past, taking on the name Bogan, the moon where their ancestors had trained with dark side energy. They understood the tactical value of that name, the dread it could inspire in the Ashlar, who heard it whispered across star systems like a curse. They adopted it with ruthless efficiency, completely without reservation, and with an eye toward weaponizing it against their enemies. Other Jedi terms were cast aside like worn-out tools. Padawan became learner, Minari in the common tongue. Force sensitives earned the designation Raisha, meaning called. But the Force itself kept its name in both terminologies, remaining the one truth that still bound them together. The one constant in a galaxy where everything else could be negotiated, conquered, or abandoned. Names, after all, have power. And in a region where power meant survival, choosing the right name could mean the difference between founding an empire and becoming a footnote in someone else's history. Integration and influence. The Ashlar found acceptance through negotiations, transparency, and the kind of patient diplomacy that builds trust over years and decades. They understood that true strength came not from the quick strike, but from the slow cultivation of alliances, bonds forged in shared purpose rather than fear. The Ashlar became leaders, or very influential power brokers, in the great houses of 15 planets that roughly marked out what would become known as Ashlar space. Each world was different. Desert planets where water was more precious than spice. Ocean worlds where great cities floated on perpetual storms. Mountain fortress worlds where ancient citadels commanded strategic hyperspace routes. But all were bound by common principles and mutual defense pacts. The Bogan seized control through conquest, enslavement, and blood. Methods that work quickly but leave scars lasting generations. They believed in overwhelming force, that hesitation was weakness, and that mercy was a luxury the strong could not afford. The Bogan dominated 6 core planets, establishing great clans with rigid hierarchies and brutal discipline, while extending their influence through client worlds that marked the boundaries of Bogan territory. The legacy. 2 philosophies, 2 ways of wielding the Force, far from the Republic, far from the Jedi High Council, far from the Legion of Leto, now long forgotten. 2 approaches to shaping civilization among the stars. This is one of the sagas of the Fallen. Not the only one, and perhaps not the most important one, but it is ours. And in the end, that's all any of us really have, our stories, and the choices that made them worth telling.